So the other month, I decided to shred up a bunch of my old childhood art. A lot of anime eyes in corners, or messed up looking hands, or people covering their their hands, no feet, that kind of thing. Shredded it up. I saved a lot of stuff that I liked, but I bought this little paper making kit. There are ants all over that table. But it comes with a mesh, this kind of wire backing, and then usually like a wooden mold goes with it. I think it's called like a mold and decal. I don't remember the actual term, but I bought that, and I needed a blender, and you get a sponge to go ahead and absorb excess moisture. But I have a lot of this paper. It was a lot of stuff that I kind of destroyed. I did record the stuff that I liked, but here it all is. So the idea is that you just get it very wet, and then you blend it up. And it just produced the worst noises. I hated that. Anyway, so you get this big old tub of water. I probably could have got a better vessel for this, but you get this, what you call paper pulp, and distribute it into the water. And you're going to see that my very first attempt, it's going to be chunky. And so you just mix in little bits of pulp in there. You can see that there's little bits of like newspaper in there that just didn't really dissolve the same way that the other paper did. And so you can see that it's pretty chunky. I also have like really chunky cardstock in there. But you just kind of get your mold all put together, shake it up in the water, and you are going to go ahead and pull up a messy piece of paper, but all that pulp should kind of like settle into like a flat sheet like so. This obviously doesn't look super great. It is, pretty rustic, but I go through and I kind of remake this one a few times, because honestly the results, especially seeing how chunky it was, I wasn't super happy with it. But at a certain point I realized, oh, that was just me. I didn't mix the pulp up enough, so I kind of have to just commit to it. But the cool thing about this is you can kind of redo it as many times as you want, until you pull it all out like that. The next step is you can get a t-shirt or just any like flat cloth. I use a t-shirt for now. I'm probably going to cut these up later. And I just essentially flip over that wet paper onto the piece there. And then from there, you kind of squeegee out as much water as you can, pushing it out, also absorbing it with the sponge. And then you can kind of peel away at the mesh sheet. I peeled away a little bit of that paper there, you can see. But that's essentially the gist of it. And then from there, you can pretty much just rinse and repeat. There's probably better ways to do it, but that's how I ended up doing it. And so here's just me attempting to do it. And you can see those giant chunks of newspaper there, and I'm just not happy with it or feeling it, and I'm kind of messing up this whole process. This shirt has been bleached to all heck, but this is going to be the other sheet that I use for the paper. From here, I end up repeating the process a few more times, but it really is as straightforward as it looks. There's probably ways that I could make this whole process a lot better, but this is just my first attempt. And you're seeing, it's chunky. I probably could have done a few things, but we're going to cut right over to how I'm hanging these up. I do have these little felt sheets that I used as well that came with the kit, and then these are the ones that I placed into the closet. I think it was like 6 or 5. Later, when they are dry, you do just end up peeling them straight off the sheets, and they make a pretty satisfying noise. I think you would have either really hated that noise, or you might have really liked it, but here's the paper. I mean, it works. I mean, obviously it's chunky and there's problems with it, but it's a fun first attempt. It looks like handmade, which is both good and bad. And this is pulp number 2. This is after I had let it sit for a little bit in the water. I added more water. And then I basically just reblend this one up, I'm pretty sure. I hated that noise. Anyways, from there, you can see that the sheets of paper that I'm getting here are a lot smoother. So I think in the future, if I really wanted to get it smooth, I should do an initial blend, let it soak, and then blend it again. But you can see that this paper, a lot smoother. There's still problems, but it's significantly better than the first draft there. Because I realized I need to let these things soak for a little bit, I got a separate basket, and I kind of just dedicated this one, dedicated this one to go ahead and soak the paper overnight. So packing in as much of that paper scrap as I can, and in that paper you can see there's a lot of sketchbook paper. You see some colorful little bits of newspaper, but this one, just fill it with water and kind of move on from there. This one, I get some of this like red tea. I think it's I don't remember. It's hibiscus tea, and I pour it in thinking that I could kind of dye the paper a little bit with it. I've seen people do it with tea and then coffee. I attempted this time, and honestly, after you mix it a little bit, it looks like the color of the paper is going to be richer than it actually ends up being. I thought this would be a lot cooler than it ended up being, but it ended up just kind of being like gray, and you'll see what I mean. As I'm mixing it, it's just kind of muddying down those colors a little bit, and maybe I could have used more tea. Maybe I could have got maybe a stronger dye if I really wanted to dye it, but I thought it would do something more considering how like blood red that tea was. Kind of skip showing you the process, but here's the paper that I dyed red just now, and you're gonna see that it's like so marginally darker than the one that I didn't dye at all. So you're seeing that it's just ever so slightly. For these ones, I made them a little bit thicker, but you can see after I've put them inside my paper press and just kind of fold them flat. I mean, there's kind of a vibe to it, even as janky as they look. I think the jank kind of adds to it, especially since just knowing my settings. Since I did talk about coffee, I did buy some coffee. Could have got something cheaper, but that is going to be the next batch. I want to make something with coffee. I ended up buying a whole new blender for this just because I didn't want to have to use anyone else's blender. I wanted to use a cheap one that I could use just for paper making. And honestly, these shots are just a little bit nicer now that I can actually show blending. I think the idea is you're supposed to fill it in like a quarter up and then with a lot of water. I tried to do that and it was still a little too thick. This is the coffee, and honestly, same thing with the other one. This, as much coffee as I added, ended up just being a little bit kind of like gray in the end. You'll see what I mean by that. This is the paper with the coffee. I don't know if it was the blender or if I just maybe needed to let these soak more or re-blend them, but it had a lot of the specks again. But I don't know if it's just me coping at this point, but I kind of like the specs in the end. I'm not really sure how entirely I feel about this, but I'm gonna let these dry one more time, make a few sheets, and here is the final result with all the paper. I made a pretty good stack of paper. There's quite a few of them. See me just flipping through them. There's some little specks and marks in a few of them. But at this point, those are just kind of like little bits of history maybe that I can let exist in the paper. But those ones on the top that I'm showing, those are the coffee paper. They're like ever so slightly gray, you know? Anyways, point is, I have all these papers. I am going to be making a lot more paper because I have so much paper scraps to go through. The very first journal that I set up with this is going to friend, but a lot of these are going to be used for like little hidden notes, things like that my players will find, and that's kind of the hope with all of this. So more paper making to come, more random crafts to come. Thanks for watching.